Let's start with a story. There's a homophobe and a gay guy arguing in the comments section of a YouTube video. I know, you've never seen that happen. And the homophobe says, uh, being gay is a choice, it's wrong, it's a sin, you're going to hell. You know the drill. The gay guy comes back and says, of course being gay is not a choice. Who would choose this? Who would opt for a life of fear and discrimination and all the stuff that goes along with being gay? But the homophobe points to the ex-gay movement, and the gay guy points back to his initial argument and all the testimony of other gay people who say it's not a choice, and they go back and forth like this, and neither side's really convinced. That shouldn't surprise you, right? If you've ever been on the internet, you've seen that situation play out, and you know that in a lot of cases, arguing about whether being gay is a choice doesn't convince anyone. What might surprise you, though, is where Maggie Gallagher comes down on this. Now, if you don't know, Maggie Gallagher used to run the National Organization for Marriage. Now she runs some other anti-gay rights group. Basically, if you support gay rights, this woman is not your friend. She is the devil. She's the one raising all the money, getting the things on the initiative, on the ballots. Not a nice woman. And she says that being gay is not a choice. Let that sink in for a minute. So the gay community is using as part of its arguments in defense of homosexuality the same thing that this huge anti-gay rights leader is using. That ought to make us stop and ask whether there's some serious problem with what we're saying. And there is. First, if someone attacks being gay is wrong, and all we say back is, oh, being gay is not a choice, so you can't discriminate against me for it, we're not actually answering their argument, right? They've said it's wrong, and we're sort of accepting that it's wrong. We're just saying, you can't hold someone to something that they didn't choose, so, instead you should pity us or something, right? And we're not actually defending that engaging in gay behavior or having gay desires is okay. And that's a problem, right? And that's why this argument doesn't get us very far. The anti-gay marriage people make the analogy between gays and pedophiles. And that analogy does break down. Gays aren't like pedophiles at all. But it doesn't break down around choice, right? The gays don't choose who they're attracted to, and I don't think the pedophiles choose to be attracted to young children either, right? And most people in the gay rights movement would agree with that, because the whole point behind the being gay is not a choice argument is that who you're attracted to isn't something you choose. Also, the gay people choose whether to have gay sex, and the pedophiles choose whether to act on their behavior and have sex with young children, right? So the difference isn't about choice. The difference is the difference between those two actions. When the gay person does what they desire to do, they have consenting sex with another person who is, getting something out of it and has entered into it freely and understanding the situation. When the pedophile acts on his desires, he's taking advantage of a young child who he or she is taking advantage of a young child who doesn't understand fully the circumstance he's being used for or used in, and can't really consent and isn't being acted freely and is being used by the pedophile to meet his own desires. And that's a huge, huge, huge difference. So if we want full rights as a gay community, we can't ignore that distinction between gays and pedophiles. We have to be talking about it, right? Otherwise, we're not going to be entitled to any more rights than the pedophile is. We might, like the pedophile, be able to say, don't get mad at us for having gay desires, but that in and of itself doesn't mean accept us totally into society and grant us new legal rights, right? Which is what we're asking for. We're asking for marriage rights, but no one would ask for pedophile rights, and that would be insane. And the reason that we can ask for marriage rights and they can't ask for pedophile rights is because me marrying another man doesn't harm anyone and is a perfectly moral action, while a pedophile having sex with a child isn't. And that's the distinction we have to make, not one about choice. And there's so many other problems too if we only argue that being gay is not a choice. Like bisexual people, right? For bisexual people, they, in some real sense, can choose to marry someone of the opposite sex. So they're not forced, without a choice, to marry someone of the same sex. That means that if we just talk about choice, we wouldn't extend new rights to them. And that makes no sense. Obviously, they deserve those new rights too. So it's yet another reason to really talk about why homosexuality in and of itself is okay, and stop just talking about whether it's chosen. So that should be pretty damn clear at this point. So why do we keep making this argument? Why do we keep talking about whether being gay is a choice? Um, and I think a lot of the reason is because for people on the fence about gay rights, for people who maybe know deep down that being gay doesn't harm anyone, the argument works, right? Telling them that gay people aren't these people who chose to be deviant or tried to subvert society or do something malicious, but are rather just this random sampling of people who happen to be born differently, is very reassuring. And I think it's also reassuring to parents or close family members of people who come out as gay, because it means that, their parenting or whatever didn't cause their child to be gay, and that they're not to blame, and that their child isn't trying to do something disrespectful or disruptive or whatever, but that it's just how things are, right? And a lot of people, once they understand it's not a choice, maybe they don't try to change it, and then they slowly learn or see that it doesn't harm anyone. So, like if you're not an accepting parent or something. Um, so I'm not against people saying that being gay is not a choice. In other words, I'm fine if we keep making the argument we're making now, where we say no one chooses to be gay. I just think it's not enough. I think that if we hang the gay rights movement on it, and then a lot of people on the other side start to point out that it doesn't, that they start accepting that it's not a choice, but still arguing that it's wrong, like Maggie Gallagher has, then we might be in trouble. And even if that's not likely a practical issue, I think it's intellectually dishonest for us to keep talking about whether being gay is a choice when, like we saw earlier, that's not morally relevant. There are some things that aren't really a choice, that are not to be encouraged, like the pedophilic behavior, and there are things that are a choice that we would have no problem telling people what to do, like wearing blue socks. It's just not morally relevant whether someone chooses to wear blue socks or green socks. It's totally a choice, but both choices are fine. We just need to make new arguments in favor of gay rights. And those arguments aren't hard. I've sketched a basic one here, right? It's that freedom is a good that we can all agree on, and that if you're doing something that doesn't harm other people, it should be allowed in the name of freedom, right? And that's a good argument, and it's the foundation of a lot of good arguments for gay rights, but it's not very detailed. So if you've heard a specific argument about why being gay is wrong, or you're making that argument, like being gay is unnatural, or being gay doesn't procreate, or being gay, is against the Bible, whatever, leave that argument in the comments, and I'll respond with a more detailed counter. I just hope that no one goes in the comments and says, you're going to hell because being gay is a choice.